She didn't just demand the house, the car, and our entire savings account. She demanded full custody and wanted to take away my rights as a father. I looked at the woman who once swore to stand by me for life, now sitting just a few feet away in the courtroom, like I was a complete stranger. But what she didn't know was that I had prepared a move no lawyer could predict. And a single piece of paper turned the entire trial in a direction no one saw coming. Not even the judge. This wasn't revenge. This was how I took back justice, for me, for my son, and for the years I had lived with a genuine heart. My name is David Miller. I'm 38 years old. There's nothing special about me, except that for the past 10 years, I've lived as a devoted husband and father. I don't do drugs, I don't chase women, I come home on time from work, and I'm always the last one to leave the dinner table, cleaning up the dishes. I used to believe that if I lived decently, then family would always be a safe haven. I was wrong. My wife, Lisa, used to mean everything to me. We met when we were dirt poor. I was a technician at a mechanical company, she was a hotel receptionist. Our paychecks were barely enough to rent a small, cramped apartment, and we often split half a pack of noodles for dinner. But we loved each other genuinely. She laughed when I clumsily made coffee. I laughed when she read romance novels while eating. Love was simple and complete. A few years later, we got married. Then came our first son, Ben. I started working more, picking up extra night shifts, saving every penny to buy a small house in the suburbs. Life wasn't easy back then, but I never complained. Because I knew I was doing it all for my family. And I believed Lisa felt the same. But then, things started to change. And I was too blind to see it early on. Lisa began coming home late. She said it was work, but didn't let me call her office. She got a new phone, new clothes, and suddenly started going to get her nails done, going to the spa, things she used to say were a waste of money. One night, I saw her texting someone at midnight, but when I walked over, she instantly turned off the screen. I asked and she snapped, "What? You don't trust your own wife?" I stayed quiet. I didn't want to argue in front of our son. But inside, something cracked. Then came the biggest shock. I saw Lisa step out of a car with Craig, a friend I used to work with at my old job. They were laughing and talking like a couple on a date. I stood there for a long moment, then quietly walked away. I couldn't tell if the pain came from her betrayal, or from realizing just how blind I'd been all this time. I tried to stay calm. I wanted to save this marriage, if there was any way. But just a week later, Lisa filed for divorce. Without a single explanation. And what shattered me was that in the divorce papers she requested the entire house, because she's the primary caregiver. The car, because I have no real need for it. 80% of our joint assets, because I didn't take care of the family. Full custody of our child. I thought I had read it wrong. The woman who once said she'd hold my hand for life now wanted to take everything, even the child I loved most. I remember that night vividly, sitting alone in the living room, staring at the empty house, feeling like my chest was being crushed. But I didn't let myself fall apart. I went quiet. No blame. No tears. I started quietly digging. Quietly gathering every bit of information. The messages. The bank statements. The seemingly harmless things Lisa once said without thinking. I'm not good with words. But I knew the truth would speak for itself. And on the day of the trial, I brought one sheet of paper. Just one. But it was going to change everything. The hearing took place on an early autumn morning. No rain, but an odd, gloomy sky. I arrived early, wearing the old white shirt Lisa had given me for my birthday 3 years ago. It was worn, the collar slightly frayed, but I chose it on purpose, as a reminder to myself, some things that were once love are now just memories. Lisa arrived about 10 minutes later. She walked in with her lawyer, dressed in a tight-fitting charcoal business dress, face carefully made up, hair curled neatly and confidently. She didn't look at me. Not a glance. Not a word. She walked right past me like I was invisible, then sat at the opposite table next to a rather stern, professional-looking male attorney. I sat on my side. No lawyer. I hadn't hired one. I had my reasons. The session began. Lisa was allowed to speak first to her attorney. He stood up, wearing a face of fake righteousness with a hint of smugness, and presented to the judge that his client, Lisa, had suffered emotional distress throughout the marriage. He listed a series of carefully crafted evidence reports claiming I was constantly absent from home, neglectful toward my wife and child, showing signs of verbal abuse, and even mental intimidation. I stayed silent. No rebuttal. No frown. I let them finish. Lisa occasionally bowed her head to dab her eyes with a tissue, but her hand was steady. Not shaking. Not wet. She wasn't crying. It was all an act. And I realized she was a far better actress than I had thought. The lawyer made the following demands. Transfer full ownership of the house to Lisa. The car should go to her. 80% of the joint savings. Full custody of our son, claiming I was mentally unstable and financially incapable. A heavy silence filled the courtroom. I could feel the pity from some of the people in the room, including the middle-aged female judge sitting sternly before me. She nodded slightly, as if already prepared to rule in Lisa's favor. I took a deep breath. My turn to speak. I stood up, holding a thin folder. Not to give a long speech. I said only one sentence. Your Honor, I have a document I'd like to submit. It pertains to the plaintiff's honesty. The judge looked up, surprised. I walked forward and handed a single sheet of paper to the court clerk, who then passed it to the judge. Lisa frowned slightly. For the first time that morning, she looked at me. The document was a bank statement, not from our joint account, but from a personal account Lisa had opened nearly a year ago at a little-known online bank. I found out about it by chance, from a partially deleted spam email on an old laptop she used to use. The statement showed Lisa had transferred over $130,000 from our joint account into that personal one over 8 months. That money had disappeared from our savings without my knowledge, because Lisa had full access to our internet banking. But that wasn't all. I pulled out another printout, from Lisa's hidden inbox, which I accessed using her secondary email, the one she had once asked me to set up for her and never changed the password. It contained a string of messages between Lisa and Craig, my former best friend. One of the messages from Craig read, "When this is over, I'll have the house, the money, and that idiot won't be in the way anymore." Lisa replied, "Leave it to me. The lawyer said the more I act like I'm hurt, the more the court will believe me. He's a clueless fool, never suspected a thing." The room suddenly felt a few degrees colder. I then submitted an audio recording of a conversation between Lisa and her best friend, where she casually talked about the plan to get custody so I can squeeze him for higher child support, followed by a smug laugh. I got this recording from one of her calls while I pretended to be asleep on the couch. The judge suddenly stood up, frowning. She whispered something to the clerk. An officer left the courtroom. Lisa began to pale. She turned to her lawyer, whispering nervously, but her hands were shaking. 3 minutes later, 2 police officers entered the courtroom holding a folder. One of them walked over to Lisa and stated clearly, in front of everyone, "Mrs. Lisa Miller, you are under investigation for financial fraud, illegal asset transfer, and attempted marital litigation fraud. Please come with us." Lisa froze. Her eyes widened. Her mouth moved soundlessly. "No, this can't be, he's just some dumb mechanic." I didn't move. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just looked toward my 8-year-old son, waiting outside the courtroom, and thought to myself, I did the right thing. Not to win, but so my son can grow up with the truth. Lisa was handcuffed right there in the courtroom. No more fake tears, no more sweet words. Her face turned pale as paper, her lips trembling, not from cold, but from fear now clearly visible in her eyes. The police led her away without resistance. Lisa didn't fight back. Maybe she knew it was over. I didn't look back. I just stood still, gripping the edge of the table, as if I needed something to keep me from collapsing. Not out of joy, but because of the overwhelming wave of emotions, pain, frustration, and finally, release. The judge gently tapped her gavel on the table, signaling the session would continue. She looked at me, her eyes no longer filled with doubt, but with a mix of respect and sympathy. "Mr. Miller," she said, voice calm yet firm, "the court recognizes the evidence you submitted as legal and of significant value in this divorce proceeding, and it will support a formal investigation into financial fraud. We will now proceed with deliberation immediately." I nodded, saying nothing more. The closed deliberation lasted around 20 minutes. The longest 20 minutes of my life. I wasn't afraid of losing my assets. I had only one fear: who would Ben, my son, end up with? When the judge returned, the room fell completely silent. She held a long decision document in her hand, then looked up at me. "After reviewing all the evidence, testimonies, and the particularly serious nature of the plaintiff's deceptive conduct, the court rules as follows." I clenched my fists, trying to keep my breathing steady. "The custody and guardianship of the minor child, Ben Miller, shall be fully awarded to Mr. David Miller, the father. The child's mother is currently under criminal investigation and temporarily loses visitation rights for a period of 6 months, pending the outcome of the investigation." I felt my eyes burn. "All existing assets, including the house in Greenfield, the Ford Escape vehicle, and the entire savings account, shall remain in Mr. David Miller's possession. Furthermore, all compensation claims by the plaintiff are considered void due to fraudulent presentation and serious legal misconduct." I released my clenched hands. Everything around me blurred for a moment. I didn't jump up in joy. I didn't cry. I just felt weightless, like I could finally breathe after a nightmare that had lasted too long. Outside the courthouse, I found Ben sitting with my close friend Emma, who had helped care for him throughout the hearings. Ben ran up to me, throwing his arms around me. "Dad! Where's Mom?" I froze. I couldn't tell a child his mother had just been arrested. I knelt down, looked him in the eyes. "Mom's taking care of a few things. But from today on, you'll be with Dad every day. I promise to make your favorite spaghetti, okay?" Ben grinned and nodded eagerly. I hugged him tightly and whispered in my heart, "You don't need to know what your mother did. You only need to know I won't let you get hurt again." In the days that followed, the local media began reporting on the divorce litigation fraud case, rare but serious. Lisa was held in custody for investigation. Craig, the so-called best friend who betrayed me, was arrested in another state while trying to start his own company with the very money Lisa had transferred to him. I didn't feel triumphant. Truly, I didn't. I had once loved her. Once placed absolute trust in that woman. I used to believe that if I just tried hard enough, she wouldn't leave. But now I understand, some people simply don't deserve a second chance. I returned to my old life, except now, I had my son by my side and a heart no longer afraid of being alone. I focused on work, took Ben to school, biked with him in the afternoons, and read him stories at night. Slowly, he returned to being the cheerful boy he once was, chattering away about school each day. And on one quiet evening, as we were eating spaghetti together, Ben suddenly looked up and asked, "Dad, why aren't you mad at Mom?" I smiled and patted his head. "Because I don't need to be angry to prove I was right. Just having you with me is enough. In life, there are battles that don't require fists or shouting. Just a piece of paper, and a heart steadfast in its belief in the truth. I lost a wife. But I kept my conscience. And most importantly, I kept my son. 2 years have passed since the court granted me custody. Our life together has been peacefully simple. Each morning, I get up early to make breakfast, brew coffee, and wake Ben for school. In the afternoons, we sometimes stop by the park, or stay home doing homework and sharing stories. Laughter now fills a home that once felt like an empty shell. Ben has grown so much. He knows how to fold his clothes, wash dishes, and he no longer asks about his mother as often. Maybe he's learned, in his own way, that some people are meant to remain only in memories. I've also learned how to forgive, not to fix a broken relationship, but to free myself from bitterness. I no longer resent Lisa. But there's no room for her in my life anymore. I thought it was all over, until one late autumn evening, as I was getting Ben ready for bed, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Standing there was a familiar face, Lisa. She looked thinner, older, with dark circles under her eyes and messy hair. The pride and cold calculation were gone. She was just a worn-out woman clutching an old coat like it was the only warmth she had left. "David," she spoke, her voice hoarse. "I don't know if I even have the right to stand here. But I need to see my son." I didn't invite her in. Didn't scold her. I simply asked, "Why now?" Lisa lowered her head, her hands clenched together. "I was released from prison 3 months ago. No one will hire me. Craig disappeared after getting out on bail. I've lost everything. I thought about ending it all. But then I remembered Ben. His smile when he was little." I looked at her for a long time. No anger left, just emptiness. "Ben's doing well. Really well. He's smart, loves drawing, and is into sports. He laughs a lot. And he doesn't mention you anymore." Lisa broke down. This time, real tears fell from her eyes, not because she was caught, not because she lost. But maybe, for the first time, because she realized the most important thing she had lost was a child who once called her, "Mom. Let me see him, just for a moment. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just need to know my child is okay." I didn't respond right away. I stepped inside and closed the door for a moment. Ben was lying in bed, hugging his teddy bear. "Ben," I asked, "if someone who once made you sad, who once left you, wanted to see you again, would you want that?" Ben was quiet for a few seconds, then asked, "Are they sorry, Dad?" I nodded slowly. "It seems like they are." Ben thought for a moment, then nodded. "Then give them a chance. But just once." I went back and opened the door. Lisa was still there, hands tightly clenched. When I opened it, she looked up, eyes filled with tears. I spoke softly. "He agreed to see you. But just this once. And only for 10 minutes. Lisa didn't say anything. She nodded like a child who knew she'd done wrong. She walked into the room where Ben was waiting. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw Lisa kneel down, hug Ben tightly, and cry like she never had before. Ben didn't cry. He gently patted her shoulder, like a grown-up comforting someone who had finally awakened from a long delusion. 10 minutes later, Lisa left. She didn't ask for more. Didn't beg. Just bowed deeply, then walked off into the night, as if she finally understood the consequences of what she had done. I don't know if Lisa has truly changed. But I do know. Forgiveness isn't a gift. It's the final test of one's heart. As for me, I don't need to win. I just want to be the kind of father Ben will be proud to speak about when he grows up. Because no matter how many times life betrays you, if even one person believes in you, that's enough to begin again. David's story is proof that justice may arrive late, but it never truly disappears if we stay true to the truth. In real life, many have been betrayed, lost, or pushed down by deceitful people, but truth has a quiet strength that endures. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's maturity, when we let go of bitterness to live more fully. Sometimes, a lone but honest father can give his child a more complete childhood than any perfect family lacking real love. What do you think about David's decision? Would you have forgiven like he did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more touching, meaningful family stories.